And the South African National Defence Union says detailed plans for the repatriation of soldiers killed in the Democratic Republic of Congo will be announced this week. The Southern African Development Community also met last Friday to discuss plans of repatriating the deceased and injured South African, Malawian and Tanzanian soldiers. 14 South African soldiers were killed in the DRC, leaving their families seeking answers about the circumstances of their deaths and the process of bringing their loved ones home. Let's bring in the the South African National Defence Union's national negotiator, Jeff Dubazana. Jeff, good morning. Thanks as always for your time. Typically, what happens in a case where soldiers are killed in battle overseas?
What needs to happen, Iman, thanks for the opportunity. And maybe let me start by extending our sincere condolences to the families of the bereaved our heroes. Iman, usually in a war situation, especially this one as it stands now, there has been a temporary ceasefire that has been declared since from the 25th. It's now 11 days in between the declaration of that ceasefire between SAMI DRC and the rebels. And the basis when we hear is that both camps were allowed to retrieve their fallen heroes and those who were injured back to camp. Now, the issue is from camp, they're supposed to be coming back home. There's no reason, especially those who are deceased, there's no reason for them to, up until now, it's almost 11 days since the declaration of that temporary ceasefire. There's no reason. Yes, there are talks that it's complicated, what have you. How can it be complicated when there's a ceasefire? If there's a ceasefire, our understanding is that it should then be easy to simply retrieve our fallen heroes, not only those who are fallen, but those who are injured. Because now we are now facing a situation of those who are injured, as it is said, succumbing to their injuries, and that cannot be accepted.
Jeff, I can just imagine that this would be a distressing conversation for the families to be listening to, because I want to go deeper into, in a context of war, as you say, even though there's been a ceasefire that's been holding for a few days now, you're saying those who remain then use this opportunity to go and retrieve their bodies or to see to the injured. But I'm assuming then, well, let me not assume, let me ask you the question, what do you know about how they have access, or whether or not they have access to treatment? This is for those who are injured, and whether there are cold storage facilities for the bodies of those who were killed.
Look, cold storage facilities that could be there, surely one needs to understand that they are limited, We pride ourselves in our own force, that is the SANDF, that they would take care of their own. But given the situation as it stands now, especially in Sake, where they are confined in their camp, especially those who are deceased and those who are injured, the best move would be to immediately retrieve them. I mean, it takes just under 6 hours to have those bodies back into the country and those injured back into the country. The question is, why is it taking so long?
Have you put these questions, Jeff, to the ministry and to the SANDF to ask why there has been this delay? One of the things we'll talk about in just a moment are some of the answers that the family members and the community still want. But on the issue of the condition of those bodies, there are funeral services that need to be planned. This raises some concern. So what clarity have you gotten? Have you asked the SANDF why it's taking so long?
Look, the response to that question, all the answers that we get from those in charge of this mission is that, this whole thing is complicated. They are doing all in their power to make sure that within this week, those bodies will be back at home. We hope that no matter what, within this week, those bodies should be back at home.
One of the things is, Jeff, that the families do want to know, besides the repatriation timeline, so that they can make arrangements, and of course these are normally spearheaded by the South African National Defence Force, was clarity around how their loved ones who are soldiers died in battle. Again, what typically happens in these circumstances, and is it likely that they will be able to understand the exact circumstances under which they were killed? Are you making those representations as well for details on what happened?
Look, there has been a lot of, stories around what led to the death of our gallant heroes. As SANDU, we believe that the most proper way to establish exactly as to what happened, what led to their death, what led to some of them getting injured, it would be through some establishment of a commission that would not only be led by the Defense Department, but it should then be a commission that's open. Whoever was in the DRC to come forward and testify before that commission as to exactly what happened. Not only starting from the 22nd, 23rd, but a week or 2 weeks before that. That led us to the situation that we are in. Yes, it is terribly disturbing. It is disheartening that whilst families of the fallen heroes and South Africa as such are supposed to be preparing, burial of those fallen heroes, there is no clear timeline as to when should they be expecting back bodies of their fallen heroes. That is disheartening. It is seriously painful.
What one would imagine also makes you incredibly angry because they died in service.
Yes, you see, that's the problem. They are families to their, parents, brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers. But in all fairness, those fallen heroes they are children of us as South Africa as a whole. And
Right.
in this instance, they are the sons of Africa as a whole, because they fell fighting for Africa in the DRC.
Yeah, I think it's quite disconcerting, Jeff, listening to you share how much you don't actually know about where the injured and the deceased are being kept, under what conditions they're being kept, the circumstances under which they were killed, because one would imagine that there would be, at least competent communications between either the field officers, and again, speaking in ignorance as a civilian who's not, doesn't really understand potentially how these things work actually on the field, but the expectation that there would be somebody who's been, has the ability to give these answers that families don't have today. There's so many unanswered questions. What we do know is that the Defence and Military Veterans Minister, this is Angie Motshekga, is briefing the Defence Portfolio Committee on developments in the DRC over the last while, because there are also growing calls for the withdrawal of our troops from the region. And there also is a lot of pressure from politicians and political parties in South Africa for more clarity and answers on this. And then you've also got the M23, who's calling for the withdrawal of the SADC mission in the DRC, which include our soldiers there. Are you hopeful that more details will come out of this defense briefing later today?
Iman, it depends on whether the correct questions are going to be asked by those, the minister who will be briefing. That's the most important thing. That briefing should not be sensationalized. Politics should not play a role in this instant. They should get to the truth of the matter. And they can only get there by simply asking relevant and proper questions. Iman, as a union, we know a lot about what's happening there. Our members are there. We are in contact with our members. The problem we find ourselves as a union is that, this is it's a war situation. Whatever information that you give out, you need to make sure that it doesn't, at the end, compromise our soldiers there. But most definitely, we know a lot that's happening there in the DRC on a daily basis. Our members inform us of what's happening there, which is why I am saying, and I know for a fact that not only are they informing the union, some of the members of parliament have been informed by those who are in the DRC as to the situation that they are in, what's going on in there, which is why we are pleading that during this briefing, relevant and proper questions should be asked. And let's forget about politics. We're talking about the integrity of South Africa here.
Yeah, it sounds...
Once that can be achieved, then we would appreciate that.
It sounds, Jeff, as you say, and one can appreciate that there are things which would be classified information that you can't share. This is a live combat situation, albeit a ceasefire is in place. I guess, in a word, as we close, how would you describe, without giving us potentially compromising details, the situation that our soldiers remain in there? Is it a messy situation that they find themselves in this morning?
Look, one thing for sure, Iman, we've got confidence in our men and women in uniform. For the rebels to agree to this ceasefire, we were not under pressure to have that ceasefire. Remember, their intention on the 23rd and the 22nd and 23rd, it was to run down the Sake base where we are based. And were able to defend it. They couldn't achieve their mission. And now they then saw that their objective was not going to be realized at Sake. That's when then they started marching to Goma. So yes, they could be in whatever, vulnerable situation where they are, but we do have confidence in them. Defending themselves.
Jeff Dubazana, thank you for talking to us this morning. I can only imagine, given, as you say, there's so much more that you know but can't share, the pressure that you must feel as a union, and also concerns for the well-being of our soldiers still deployed. More clarity, Jeff is saying, is needed on the repatriation of their bodies. At this stage, it's still unclear, and we're hopeful, as you've just heard him say, that out of that briefing to the Portfolio Committee on Defence this morning, that more answers will be forthcoming.